Hello, I'm Danny Duchamp. Today I come bearing problems. Problems, but no solutions. I hope you enjoy. Let's start with voting. So why do you want to go out into the polling booth and cast a vote for a political candidate? Most people would say something along the lines of, well, I want these set of policies. I think that they would be good, whether that's getting the government off your back or whether it's getting the government to do something for you. They want this set of policies. This politician promises, if elected, to enact these set of policies, and so you vote for that candidate. Or maybe it's not quite so self-centered. Maybe it's not getting the government off your back. Maybe it's not getting the government to give things to you. Maybe you're altruistic. You want to benefit others, and you think that, well, the government can do so if I vote for the candidate who promises to help the less fortunate, or promises to, if you're a libertarian, stop screwing over the less fortunate, then voting will help us achieve that goal. There's a common public choice argument as to why this does not work. Every time you have cast a vote in an election, yes, you personally, every time you have done so, the result would have been exactly the same had you not. If you had not voted at all, or even if you had voted the opposite way. I guarantee you, you have never, ever been the one vote to swing an election. The public choice argument that comes from this is that we can expect politics to be irrational. That we can expect people to vote based on what sounds good, not what actually works, because their vote will give them the illusion of something good happening, but will not have actually any effect. So what sounds good is important when you're voting, because you do get the sound of the thing, but the actual results do not, because you don't actually get the thing. When you vote, you do not actually bring about a situation in which what you voted for is what you got. You have no effect on what the government does. And you might say, well, I have a tiny effect. Right, but it has never actually been enough of an effect to sway what the government does in any instance, and so you, personally, have no effect on what the government does. This is commonly used as a reason that we should not expect government policies to be particularly good, and why democracy is not a good way of getting good government policies. However, let's try applying it a different way. Let's just apply it to you. Why should you vote? No, seriously, why would you ever go out and try to have an impact on the political system knowing that you will fail to do so? This should be a knockdown argument that explains why you should never bother voting. It's a complete waste of time. However, there's a common implicit and sometimes explicit response to this argument. What if we all thought that way? This is implicitly trying to say that, well, you might individually not have any impact by voting. However, if we all act as though we have an impact when we vote, then we will have a positive impact on the political system. This is a very strong argument for us all. When I talk to us all, I will tell him that. Unfortunately, I have only ever managed so far to converse with individual humans. So, as far as you individually making your choice of whether or not to vote, you should still not vote. It still doesn't make any sense for you. And yes, I know that's going to run back round in your head, but what if we all acted that way? Are you, by not voting, going to cause us all to also not vote? By thinking that way, will you cause us all to think that way? I don't think that you will. This is going to go another level deeper, and people are going to say, well, okay, but if we all thought in such a way that if we were going to affect everyone else, then my action would affect someone else's action, which would affect someone else's action, which would affect someone else's action, and really, by a chain effect, yes, I am going to affect how we all vote. But that's not quite right. You, individually, are not. Everyone else's actions are also going to have an effect on everyone else by that same chain method. And you are only one person. Your effect will be negligible. So, you should not vote. But it's not just voting. This also applies to any political advocacy. Your political advocacy may even change a couple of people's minds, but summed up, you and those additional people will not overall change the public opinion enough for it to swing any election. Now, you might again come back to the same thing that you did before and say, but, if you change one person's mind and they change another person's mind and they change another person's mind, etc., etc., maybe you will have an impact. You are just one of many people starting a million different chains like that, and again, the chains you start will not have any significant effect on any political outcome. Just like with voting, any arguments you have about politics are totally irrational. Any interactions you have with people that are colored by your political beliefs are irrational. Any kind of interaction that you have with politics in general is frankly irrational. And it's important to reiterate that this is not just being self-centered or self-interested. This is the case even if you are entirely altruistic. It is not just your personal and selfish goals you will fail to achieve via voting or any political action. It is also your altruistic goals. The people you want to benefit will not be benefited by your political action. The marginal difference that you make is simply too small. But maybe you're special. Maybe this argument applies to the plebs, but it does not apply to you, because you have an abnormally significant impact on the political system. You've got a very popular talk radio show, or you're really big on Twitter or Gab. And you think that, well, no, you personally are going to have some actual significant impact. Heck, maybe you're a lobbyist, or you are a politician yourself, or you're someone else with some other kind of political influence that is above and beyond the average person's. And in that case, it is true that this argument doesn't apply to you. There are rational political actions that you can take. However, does it apply to you? You, personally, watching this, I just want you to think, are you really so significant in the political sphere that you think that you can have an impact above just about everyone else on the political system under which you live? You probably aren't. This video is going to reach maybe 1,000 people, and that is nowhere near enough. So you'd have to be a heck of a lot more influential than this channel in order for the arguments in this video to not apply to you. Well, maybe it's just fun. Maybe you just enjoy getting involved in politics. Maybe it's nothing beyond that. You just enjoy the arguments, you enjoy the philosophical puzzles, you enjoy the interaction with other people that you have when it comes to politics, and that's why you're getting involved. This is pretty dubious. I want you to think about every family meal that was ruined by a political argument. I want you to think about any friendships that you may have lost because of political arguments. I want you to think about any unpleasantness that you've had with anyone who you cared about because of politics. Now, maybe this has never happened, and I certainly hope that that is the case for you. But for most people, I think that politics causes a lot of grief and a lot of suffering in their interpersonal relationships. Even if they don't get outright angry, it still causes tension and discomfort when you know the person sitting across from you at the dinner tables, their political ideology is so abhorrent to you that you can't help but think that they must be a terrible person. This is not a healthy way to have interactions with people. Politics really seems to poison people's lives, and if you look at people online having these political arguments, most of them do not seem like they're having fun. Now, maybe you really do have fun. I know at times I do enjoy it myself, and that's why I've gotten involved in it for so long. And part of why I will, to some degree, continue to do so. Hey, wait, you might ask. Why are you making this video then? It's a good question. If politics is completely irrational, why am I making this video, which is political, to tell you so? And there's a few answers for that. First, this video is not necessarily trying to tell you that you should never engage in politics. It's trying to point out that there is a serious problem with engaging in politics, and why there is a clear irrationality most of the time when most people get involved in it. This doesn't mean that you should necessarily never get involved in politics, but it does mean that if you don't, at least on the inside, have some kind of answer to this conundrum, well, why should we take anything you say in politics seriously? I mean, seriously. You, if you listen to this video, have no answer to it, then go on involving yourself in politics, are admitting that you're doing something completely irrational, and yet you expect us to take your argument seriously, when you don't seem to care at all about your own irrationality. So, the reason I'm making this video is, among other things, that I do think that I have an answer for it, at least in the case of some of these things. I think that in this case, if I can convince one person that politics is irrational, who might otherwise have had horrible relationships with their friends, then that is actually some tangible benefit in one person's life, which might go some way to giving an answer about what kinds of political arguments can make sense, ones that aren't political at all and are really just personal. So I'll leave you to figure out what your own answer is to this question of irrationality and what sort of political engagements you will be in the future. But for now, I will just leave it there. So thanks very much for watching. Bye.